Have a conversation with my panel of guests who are going to be joining me right now. All right, so we're going to be talking about just the political environment, really, with just 11 days to go to the August 8th elections. Quite a number of things to really talk about. Let me start by introducing them. And right next to me on my immediate right, I have Francis Tarismay. Thank you very much for joining us. He is an independent candidate running for the Kajiado North Member of Parliament position. Thank you for joining us here. We also have George Ndoji, who is not newbie here on the show. Thank you very much for joining us. He is a political analyst. We also have Tommy Randall there. He is a lawyer and a political analyst. And we also have Nelson Harvey, who is a lawyer and a political analyst or commentator, if you like. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us here. And during the break, I was just telling you, Nelson, that we just have 11 days to the elections, but I don't know if you feel, you know, the what do you call it? The environment, is it changing? Is things the same as they were back in 2013?
Well, it appears very calm. We hope the calm is not before a storm. But so far, it looks like everything is ready to go. The main players appear to have fortified their strongholds with clear indicators, at least from their own opinion, that they will win. And look, I think the most comforting fact has been the proclamation by the main contenders in the presidential race, being the President Uhuru Kenyatta and Honorable Raila Odinga, that they are all willing to concede defeat if the election is free and fair. And I think to a large extent, this is very comforting to the general public.
All right, and that has been the quote, if the elections are free and fair. Tommy, let me come to you. Are you confident as a Kenyan that this election is going to be credible? It's not going to have any questions after August 8th?
Yes, as a citizen of Kenya and a registered voter, I'm very confident that we're going to have a transparent system that will be fair, credible, and the systems that we have in place, I have faith in them, and I think every Kenyan should and not be worried. Yes.
There was a poll that came out a few weeks ago that put the confidence of Kenyans in the IEBC at just 49%. Okay. Do you think that has grown? That was a time that IEBC was dealing with so many litigations and cases in court. Do you think that right now has improved for Kenyans?
I think by now it should have improved because more information has become available to the Mwananchi to better understand the process, and the better understanding of the process makes them more calm. Yes.
All right, George, what is your assessment of the environment right now? IEBC, like I mentioned, has been dealing with quite a number of things, but now things seem to have cooled down for them a bit. Do you think now everybody is in the right state of mind to actually carry out the next 11 days and even after in the best possible way?
Yeah, I think by and large, people are settling down because the election dates are coming nearer. And even from the opposition part, all the loopholes that they were looking at, they have been able to bring out the points clearly on what their fears were, which I think have been acted upon. Some have gone to court, and the court verdicts have been given. And therefore, there is no much complaint that is coming around, and that is why there is this calm, that now people are prepared for the elections. And I think that by and large, we need also to tell our people, I'm sure in many areas people have fearing that there's going to be violence, and you find that people are traveling up country. Some people are sending their families up country. And the way I look at it, I do not see any room for violence at all.
That's some great positivity. Francis, as an aspirant, are you confident in this whole process?
Yeah, totally. I'm very confident. I think as one of the participants in the show has just intimated, there has been increased confidence with IBC, and I think they have been seen to be walking the talk. And because they're the main players in the game, if the confidence continues to increase, basically Kenyans are going to have a lot of confidence. But in respect to reduced activities and the campaigns not being vibrant, I think we need to remember that campaigns in Kenya started last year.
Yeah.
And
last year or 2013?
Yeah, I mean, we've been in a campaign period.
Yeah.
First, in fact, being a candidate, people are saying, what's happening in the campaigns this particular period? I mean, there are no activities, and of course there is reduced money, which is in exchange.
What do you mean? We're seeing rallies all over the country. Today the president is going to be making 200 stops.
What I can tell you is that the main campaign is basically around the presidency.
Okay.
But when it comes to other positions, even gubernatorial, it is totally reduced. In fact, and also we are finding a different kind of Kenyans because they are more informed. The things that were being asked in the last general election are not the things that are being asked now. Kenyans have learned, and you know, it was the first experience of a multipartyism. So they have a better perspective of what is expected of leadership. So that's why both to Kenyans and the aspirants, the game is totally different.
Okay, so
yes.
this election has been a game changer.
Yes.
Let's talk about the campaign messaging. With just 11 days, and actually it's 9 campaigning days for the aspirants. What really is the message that the leaders should be sending out right now? Because people are saying that the only thing that's going to determine these elections is the turnout, if people turn out in numbers to vote for their own. Nelson, what is the message right now for Raila and Uhuru?
I think you've rightly put it as it ought to be. The main issue should be the turnout. Yeah. I think irrespective of who wins, if President Uhuru Kenyatta wins definitively, if Raila Odinga wins definitively, then there will be a lot of comfort amongst the voter base. And I think that is the most important factor. But when that is said and done, perhaps the IEBC must also live to the expectations of the people. Twice, I think we've been taken through a presidential election that has been perceived to have been stolen, at least from one side of the contestants. It may be a very good idea for the IEBC to ensure that this does not happen anymore. And then on the part of the electorate, it's quite important that they expect a credible and fair election. But in the unlikely event that IEBC bungles this process, people are advised not to resort to violence. I think it will be a good idea to let the mechanisms that are set out in the Constitution and the law to take their course. I think that would be the most appropriate way of ensuring that we have tranquility after the election.
But also putting in focus the undecided voters, Tommy. What is the message that will get these people to actually, side with either of the candidates?
Manifestos, maybe.
Really?
Yes, they do work as much as people don't pay attention to them. I think if something touches an undecided voter, a voter, based on what each candidate is promising, that might be reason enough to make the person go vote. So I think it's, the more informed they are about what each candidate has to offer, there might be something in there to sway an undecided voter to go vote.
And maybe just coming from your comment during the debate, or was it a one-man monologue show on Monday, Raila Odinga brought in another aspect, and he's been doing this for the last couple of days. He brought in the issue to do with single mothers, something that we've not had it being really a campaign message. So should this, candidates bring out something else? Because I think, like you mentioned, people have seen the manifestos, people have heard them in the campaigns and the interviews that they've been doing across the country. What more should they seem to offer Kenyans?
I think first, let me react to one aspect that you've talked about, and I think you're even talking about it during the news, that the president is going to make 200 stops in the next 9 days, and that the deputy president will equally make... Those are not possibilities. It is just hyping and putting in the mind of Kenyans. You can't, that means literally you're making around 21 stops in a day.
And it's not possible?
It's not possible.
We've seen them.
It's not possible. I have been on the campaign trail, and I know what it means. I think the maximum one can do is around 10. Yes.
So it's just a hype.
And that is just a hype to tell people that if you have not seen me, then I am on the way coming. To keep people hoping, to keep hope.
To keep hope alive.
Now, the other aspect that you're talking about, what would make the undecided tick, I would agree with the Wakili here that there are certain things that the manifesto does. But nonetheless, even a number of those who are not decided, normally they rely on where are we. There are people who are waiting to hear which side is going to win and to participate in the winning. So
after.
Yes, so they really want to hear where is this, and that is why even the president team would hype that they are going to make 200 stops. so that anybody who had a doubt would be saying, wow, you know, this is going to be great if he's going to do this, you know, so that he sways them to show that we are going to win.
All right, interesting. When you go, Francis, to on the campaign trail, I don't know if you're one of the candidates who is, you know, sitting back and just hoping that, you know, people vote for you, or you're on the ground, just basically talking to Wananchi. What is the message that you think Kenyans want to hear, especially when it comes to the big race of the two?
One thing I would want to say is that the percentage of Kenyans who are analytical is much more less than those who are analytical. And when you start talking about manifesto, that only attracts the people who are analytical. Because the amount of civic education that has been done is quite minimal. So when you go out there to talk to people, sometimes they are not very keen on what you are saying. But one thing which is very sure, we have more candidates than ever before in terms of the numbers because of the failed nominations. So that alone is going to attract more participants in the electioneering process than before, because the stakes are high and the interested parties are more. So I think that is one constant factor that is actually going to make the turnout better, because you have so many people who are participating and each of them do have their own supporters. So I think that's a constant factor that will definitely, but the issues of manifesto, to me, I think it's not here or there. But as for me, of course, as you have asked me, I have been a campaigner on one-on-one. That's basically what I've been doing to people, explaining to them what difference I make between myself and the rest of my competitors. But the issues about, you know, fearing and going home, one thing we have witnessed in the recent past, unlike before, the wrangles and the infightings are actually internal. When you go to Eldoret, the fighting is basically confined to Eldoret. When you go to other destinations, it's like so. So it's not like previously where people are fearing, they want to go to the Nyalgunga because where they are residing, it's being threatened. So I think the threat is more internal than actually. So Kenyans are even better informed to remain where they are because actually in the rural areas where candidates of the same party or coalition are actually fighting. So it's never safer there. It's even safer where they are.
It's safer where they are right now. Now, so let's talk about another aspect of the campaigns. And critics say that this is one of the elections that we've seen Raila Odinga going into the Jubilee strongholds very many times compared to other elections, and the same for Uhuru Kenyatta going into strongholds considered for the opposition like Mombasa. They camped there for quite some time since the year started. Your assessment of this, what does this mean? Is our politics maturing to the point that Kenyans are willing to listen to anybody, and they want to listen to this person and this person to make the best choice?
All this tends to indicate one thing. I think it's becoming much clearer to those who seek national leadership that you cannot concentrate your hold onto leadership solely on the basis of your ethnic fold. And Ruth, the truth be told, look, the current Jubilee administration was largely composed of two communities. And throughout the 4 years that they've had the power in their hands, it's becoming quite clear that it's very difficult to govern a nation that has so many communities if your voter base is only founded upon two main communities. And I think another reason as to why maybe on the part of Raila, he may want to go to areas that he would have otherwise not been welcome, could be the failure on the part of the Jubilee administration. It's becoming quite clear that despite what many of these leaders say, the people really are no longer interested in hearing what they say, but they want to see what have they done. And to that extent, therefore, it may be quite appropriate for some of these leaders to go to those territories. For instance, if it is said that there is no development in Luo Nyanza, and then President Uhuru goes to Luo Nyanza and indicates, look, these are the roads that we commissioned 2 years ago. These are the factories that we've set up. These are the institutions for health care and education that we have set up. It may come out quite clear that maybe his leadership has been unifying and national. And then on the other hand, if Raila says these are the developments that Uhuru Kenyatta claims to have set up in the last 4 years. And in actual fact, these appear to be the same developments that the Kibaki commissioned 4 years ago. Then it becomes quite clear that a leader, on one hand, is indicating to the people that, look, these are the things I've put forth for you. And in the absence of a credible critique and inquiry to establish for a fact, if at all, these are the development projects you've put for us, then people are not able to perceive objectively the developmental record of a leader. So the more the voter base is open to all the candidates, the greater the opportunity of the electorate making an informed decision as to who actually has the ability and the capacity to lead the nation and ensure that the nation grows and develops wholesome and not selectively.
Not selectively. Do you think that this re-election bid, especially for Uhuru Kenyatta, has been a hard sell? Because people are more informed about the things that he promised back in 2013 and the things that he has done or not done this time round. I'll start with you, George.
Yes. I think it is a very hard sell for him because, one, mainly because of the economy. Because they promised an economy that was going to grow with 2 digits. Instead, we have seen an economy that is receding. And like Mheshimiwa here says, there is no money in the people's pockets, including politicians. And everybody is feeling it because the economy is not doing well. So that was a promise that nothing has happened about. And they are not saying anything about the economy, if you listen to them now. There are issues, they talked about 5 stadiums, which nobody has even seen a single one.
The deputy president, if you remember, said that by September, I think, actually we'll have, is it 9 or 10?
Yes. But you see, those now are things that time tells, and it's coming out that, these are just promises. Just like I've told you about the 200 stops. Those are just promises. And Kenyans are now live to people promising them. I'm happy that even though we've not had civic education spread all over, but at least you cannot cheat Kenyans. They listen and they know what you're telling them, what you can do and what you cannot do. And they judge you on what you say.
All right, Tommy, considering what George has just mentioned, that maybe this has been a hard sell for Uhuru Kenyatta, has that made it easier for Raila Odinga?
It's easy for him because all he has to do is step back and point out the shortcomings of the Jubilee government. The shortcomings that he perceives of the Jubilee government, because not everybody will always agree with him. And earlier you had mentioned about not relying on 2 tribes to win an election.
Yes.
Somebody said necessity is the mother of invention, right? It's become necessary to campaign everywhere to sell your ideas. And also you have to go locally to support your local candidates, like your governors. Also the constitution and devolution makes it even more necessary to do that, because you need 25% in more than a certain number of counties. So
half of the counties.
Yes.
All right. Francis, you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I can agree better. You have to get 25 counties. I mean, you can't get them by, sitting back, wherever you are. Plus, the fact that, you see, for you to inspire people to go to Canaan, you need to demonize Egypt. That's basically what is happening, that each of the candidates is basically going down to the stronghold of each other. And the fact that there are things that are undone, either way. But I can say that it's not easy for either of them, and particularly because of the other number, the intellectual candidates. We have had the influx of intellectual candidates who are really tearing into the history of each of them.
Yes.
So basically, when you look at that, they have to really clean up themselves every other day. So I think, of course, the incumbency is always a liability. That you really are being looked at in what you have not been able to deliver. And Kenyans are very good in not seeing what has been done, but more what has not been done. That's why sometimes they are bashing Raila, they are bashing Uhuru, so you wonder what they want. I mean, sometimes you wonder whether we want anybody.
Maybe they want the basics. Maybe they don't want the big, projects. Maybe they want just, food on the table,
I think
value on the table.
What you have said is so critical, and I wish that is what we would focus as a nation, because Kenyans are looking for the basic. Because you even brought about the issue about the single mothers.
Yes.
And Betty, we have so many funds by the government. We have youth fund, youth enterprise fund. You have the women enterprise fund. You have the Wezo fund. You have money for the disabled. You have money for the elderly. You have money for the orphans. You have money for graduates through Kenya Industrial Estates. You have money for farmers through, Kenya Agricultural Finance Corporation. The same with ADC, Agricultural Development Corporation. You have, Tourism Trust Fund. You have Water Services Trust Fund. And this is why the chunk of the money remains with the national government. So that it can empower the people. It can actually make everybody have food on the table because they have that responsibility. That responsibility is not with the county government. So, and Kenyans are used to papers. So to me, manifestos is not the real thing. It's the will to do. It's a passion to do, because that's what is lacking in this country. Making sure that no Kenyans sleep without food or sleep under a tree, because we have all these funds. So somebody needs to account for them. And the reason why the president and the premier have the problem is both of them have been in the system.
They've been in the system.
Obviously, we can't do anything. According to the current status, it has to be one of them.
It has to be one
so
of
Kenyans
them.
have to start getting used to it, because it has to be one of them.
It has to be
But
one.
Let me add on something on this, Betty.
Yeah.
You see, and this is specifically for the Jubilee and NASA, the two coalitions, or the party and the coalition. Previously, we would say that the opposition has always lost when they're divided. Jubilee's headache and Uhuru's headache now is that the opposition is not divided. He failed to get his acts clear by ensuring that the opposition goes into the elections divided. And that is certainly going to be his headache. Because if you look at historically, even President Moi used to benefit by ensuring that the opposition are completely divided. So that if you look at the vote that is given to opposition as a team, it was certainly more than what was given to the incumbent president.
All right.
If you look at what happened to Moi Kibaki, even in 2007, he managed to divide the opposition. In 2013, similarly, you see Mudavadi went his way. At least there was that. There were three. You could say three people were going for the seat.
Right.
But at this time, the opposition is together, and it does not help matters that Uhuru, wherever he goes, it's only him and Ruto who can be seen by the whole nation.
Right.
Only two people. But the others, at least, you could hear of 5 principals who are talking different languages all over. So it is so difficult. It's a hard sell for Uhuru and Ruto. And then Ruto has been so much like a bitter man, always quarreling. Wherever he's talking, he's just quarreling and abusing.
Maybe that's the way of his politics.
Yes, and I normally say this clearly, that is actually a serious baggage to President Uhuru.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Nelson, what do you make of that? And if after the elections, after 8th of August, Uhuru Kenyatta has won the election, and if we remove the tribal aspect for it, what would be the reason behind his win?
Look, if Uhuru wins, then it will only confirm one thing, that the two communities that found his political base are a majority in Kenya. And if that be the case, then Kenyans must resign to the fact that these are ruled by the majority. There's nothing we can do with it. But more important is this. I think we need to evaluate this administration's track record. Often, where a president is elected on a periodic basis, the legacy is created during the first term, not the second term. What have we seen during the first term of President Uhuru Kenyatta? Corruption has become the order of the day. Insecurity has become so rampant. Health care has deteriorated. Food security is not there. Unemployment has just gone way beyond expectation. Now, the national debt is almost 5 trillion. How will they be able to remedy this situation in the next 5 years? It's improbable. And irrespective of the electorate's tribal affiliations, I think it's quite important to interrogate these facts. When hunger pangs hit, they hit all over, be it in Turkana, in Gatundu, in Nyando, or in Kakamega. And that's the reality of this thing. I'm not saying that Raila may be any better. But if you compare these two individuals, what was Raila's role as the head of the opposition? He came out quite vocal in setting out the major scandals, corruption, and insufficiency of performance on the part of Jubilee.
Right.
And if you to weigh these two on the scale, then a well-informed mind should be able to make a decision as to what trajectory do we want to take national leadership?
For
Do you want to sustain
right.
in underdevelopment for another 4 years, or do you want change?
Okay.
I think that's a decision for the
All right. We'll be continuing the conversation. I know you have a point on that, but we'll be coming back after this short break, and we'll be delving deeper into some of the issues surrounding, the elections and issues to do with the IEBC. Yesterday, remember, the IEBC came out to reaffirm its decision of not having periodic announcements of the results. We'll be delving deeper into that and so many other issues right after this break. Don't go away. We'll be right back.